Who's a better wrestling actor, you, Roddy Piper, or Hulk Hogan? I probably hosted 90 shows, morbidly depressed. The job here is no excuses. The job here is you come to play. You look into the camera, you talk into the camera, you smile, you nod, you act. I host a show on TSN called Off the Record, daily show, 200 shows a year. I'm Michael Landsberg. I suffer from depression. And while I'm not depressed all the time, in fact, most of the time I feel good, the thing that cripples me sometimes is the fear of depression returning. So you're never totally free from it. Hey, Alex. Here's what I need. I don't know if you can find it, but Bret Hart, I believe, has been really critical. Depression for me has a number of aspects to it. I'm at work, I'm on this set, I'm hosting a show. All I can think of is I desperately want to get off the set and get away from these people. I want to be in my car. Then I'm in my car and I think, oh man, I want to lie down on my couch. So I go home and I lie down on my couch and I think, I want to get in bed. So wherever I am isn't good enough. When I'm depressed, I'm forced to act. I'm forced to live as a person that really doesn't exist. I spend all my time being someone that I'm not. And in the end, that is enormously tiring and enormously unfulfilling, because in the end, at the end of my day, I think I didn't live up to who I wanted to be. So there's a cycle of depression, which is I'm depressed, and I'm even more depressed because I am depressed. When I was a kid, I suffered from these ridiculous fears. I was scared of throwing up, for instance. And I would create these scenarios in my mind, and I would internalize them because I thought that they were, A, so absurd that I couldn't tell anyone, and B, I thought that everyone kind of lived with that. I'm a believer that, for me, I become depressed when my anxiety becomes out of control. And 13 years ago, my anxiety became out of control, and I hit this wall of depression that took me 12 seconds to diagnose and 12 seconds to get to the doctor. So 13 years ago, I experienced that, saw a psychiatrist for the first time, put me on Prozac. I was at the front of a restaurant with my wife, feeling like this. I walked to the back of the restaurant to get, I think I went to the washroom. And on the way back, I was walking like this. And there was this feeling, oh my God, I think I feel a bit better. And then it was like, oh my God, I think I feel better. And then there's the staggering realization that you didn't know how sick you were because you've forgotten what normal is. And it was at that point, I got to say, one of the greatest moments of my life. And then after 6 months, you start to say, I don't think I was that sick. And then after a year, you start to go, well, these side effects are really bugging me, and, I'm sure I can do without it. And you go off the meds. And so then I decide, and this is the fall of 2008, and I decide to get off. So I go cold turkey, and my life explodes. So then I started on this antidepressant, and after 2 weeks, I thought, wow, I feel good. And after 3 weeks, I thought, wow, I feel great. And here I am today. I would say the biggest problem that people with depression face, outside of their depression, is their reticence and their fear of psychotropic medication. And I'll always say this. If you go to the doctor and you got a fever and you got a strep throat and the doctor says, hey, take amoxicillin for 3 days and you'll feel better, most people would grab that, fill a prescription, and take it happily. We're talking about something that is so debilitating, it removes every aspect of joy from your life. Nothing feels good when you're depressed. And if someone is holding a bottle of medication and they say, these pills should make you feel better, and you still say, I don't think I want to take them, that tells me there is a massive stigma. We could talk about that, the lure of wrestling. I never thought, wow, I can't tell people I'm depressed because they're going to think less of me, or they're going to think I'm weak, or they're going to think I'm crazy. I never thought that, and I don't know why I never thought that, because clearly it's pervasive out there. I would tell any person on the planet that I suffer at times from depression. I feel as unresponsible for that as I would if I had heart disease or diabetes or cancer. I wouldn't hesitate to tell people, well, I had to take a couple of days off last month because I had knee surgery. But because I'm mentally ill doesn't mean I'm crazy. I think that the key to suffering from anything that's mentally related is to talk about it, talk about it, talk about it. Because when we don't talk about it, people assume we're ashamed of it. And when people assume we're ashamed of it, they assume that there's a reason why we're ashamed. So I think the stigma starts to go when people talk about it, and when people make the point, look, just so you understand, this isn't my fault. And we had Stefan Richer, who suffered from depression when he played hockey. We talked about it on camera. And I got correspondences from 24 men who said, I've never heard a man talk about his depression. I have been terribly depressed for 5 years, but I was afraid to tell anyone because I was afraid that it made me look weak. I don't think that saying that I'm depressed makes me look weak. And I think in the end, the real stigma, the real problem, the real stereotyping comes from within. I think what's helped me deal with depression is, number one is my obsession with feeling better, my ability to diagnose myself and then say, I'm going to go for help. Number two, I have a wife who understands me and understands my pain. Most profound was I saw it in my kids' eyes. I saw them looking at me and being disappointed with the fact that I wasn't the guy that I had been a year earlier. And they didn't know why, right? So I felt this obligation. Give us your best guess. How much time does Vince spend in a tanning salon on a daily basis? Humor is my way of coping. I've learned that, first of all, don't believe what you see on television. Because on this set, for 75 times in the fall of 2008, I sat here and pretended like I was happy. So don't believe what you see, but not just on television. Don't believe what you see necessarily around you. And that's really important with your friends. It's really important to understand that because you think they're okay doesn't mean that they are okay. And most of all, I've learned 4 words. Fight for your happiness. Fight for your happiness. If you don't, no one will. I would say that if you are one of those people who believes they are depressed or anxious or anything else, but don't have the right to come out, and you don't think you can do it in one big step, do it in small steps. Tell the person you care the most about that. Tell a friend once that. Start to get used with the fact that people are going to know about this. And then walk into a doctor's office and say, I think I need help. And there's not a single day that I look into the camera that I don't think to myself, man, am I ever lucky to be doing this? I got a great job. There's other people who could do my job, but I'm the guy that gets it. I think the answer to how I've gone through 4 severe bouts of depression in 13 years and not missed a show is really simple. And that is that, especially when I was starting out in TV, whatever world I lived in produced a warrior mentality where you say you don't call in sick, you don't miss shows, you give your best every time. And I think that the expectation that I have on myself is that I will be exactly that. But the single most rewarding thing that I've ever done in television was to admit on the air that I've suffered from depression. Because then there was a whole group of people. 125,000 people watch Off the Record at a certain time, right? There was at least a few thousand people on that day went, wow, someone's talking about it. Maybe I can talk about it. So if I've ever actually only did one thing in my life that was really useful, it was that.